Rome Reports comes to you from the Department of Social Communications, Catholic Archdiocese of Accra, this and every Sunday from 3:30 to 4 p.m. on GTV.
Our family has spanned the centuries and the globe. With God's grace, we started hospitals to care for the sick. We establish orphanages and help the poor. We are the largest charitable organization on the planet, bringing comfort to those in need. We educate more children than any other institution. We developed the scientific method and founded the college system. We defend the dignity of human life and uphold marriage. Guided by the Holy Spirit, we compiled the Bible. We are transformed by sacred scripture and sacred tradition, which have guided us for 2,000 years. We are the Catholic Church, with over 1 billion in our family, sharing in the sacraments and fullness of the Christian faith. Jesus started our church when he said to Peter, the first pope, "You are rock, and upon this rock I will build my church." So if you've been away from the Catholic Church, we invite you to take another look. Visit CatholicsComeHome.org today. We are Catholic. Welcome home.
Coming up in today's show, we celebrate the Feast of Corpus Christi with Pope Francis, the heroic and sacrificial story of John Paul II's brother, an up-close look at a cookbook designed for those most in need. All this and much more here on Rome Reports.
The procession toward the altar of the Chair of Peter was accompanied by the choir's rendition of Hai dato un cibo, You Have Nourished Us. For the celebration, Pope Francis wore white, the color corresponding to solemnities like the Corpus Christi. Among the 50 or so attendees, all wearing face masks, the Pope reflected on the Eucharist as an expression of God's love for human beings. He said it is the cure for 3 illnesses. The first is the pain caused by a lack of affection.
Tanti hanno la memoria segnata da mancanze di affetto e da delusioni cocenti ricevute da chi avrebbe dovuto dare amore e invece ha reso orfano il cuore. Si vorrebbe tornare indietro e cambiare il passato, ma non si può. Dio però può guarire queste ferite.
The Pope said the second wound healed by the Eucharist is the pain caused by humiliation.
Sempre avremo davanti agli occhi le nostre cadute, le fatiche, i problemi a casa e al lavoro, i sogni non realizzati. Ma il loro peso non ci schiaccerà perché più in profondità c'è Gesù che ci incoraggia col suo amore.
The final sickness is closed memory, being detached. Pope Francis explained that the Eucharist moves people to give themselves in service to others.
Ci rialza dalla nostra comoda sedentarietà, ci ricorda che non siamo solo bocche da sfamare, ma siamo anche le sue mani per sfamare il prossimo.
At the end of Mass, instead of participating in the traditional procession through the streets with the Blessed Sacrament, those present spent some minutes in silent adoration. Afterward, the Pope stopped for a few moments to pray before the image of Our Lady. The Corpus Christi was celebrated in Rome with contained joy. Although Italy now allows attending Mass on Sundays, the Vatican has not yet given the green light to more crowded events. From a window of the Apostolic Palace, Pope Francis greeted pilgrims gathered in St. Peter's Square on the celebration of Corpus Christi. He asked the international community to look for a way to end violence in Libya, where the situation has escalated in recent weeks.
Prego anche per le migliaia di migranti, rifugiati, richiedenti asilo, sfollati interni in Libia. La situazione sanitaria ha aggravato le loro già precarie condizioni, rendendoli più vulnerabili da forme di sfruttamento e violenza.
Libya is especially dangerous for refugees. Those enslaved by ruthless human traffickers are often subjected to cruel treatment. That's why the Pope said, "We are all responsible for this," and that no one can consider him or herself dispensed from taking the situation seriously. On the solemnity of the body and blood of Christ, he called attention to two effects of the Eucharist, the mystical effect and the communal effect.
Questo duplice frutto dell'Eucaristia, il primo la unione con Cristo, il secondo la comunione fra quanti si nutrono in Lui, genera e rinnova continuamente la comunità cristiana. E la Chiesa che fa l'Eucaristia, ma è più fondamentale che l'Eucaristia fa la Chiesa.
Pope Francis explained that the mystery of the Eucharist is to receive Christ in order to be transformed from within, to be united, not divided.
Nel nome del Padre, del Figlio e dello Spirito.
Pope Francis recalled that vulnerability is truly found in moments of doubt. As an example, he spoke of Jacob, a self-made man from the Old Testament who didn't need anyone's help.
Non conosceva cosa fosse la misericordia. Era lui. Qui sono io, comando io. Non aveva bisogno di misericordia, sentiva lui.
However, his humbling moment arrived. He had betrayed his brother and felt he should reconcile with him, but his brother's reaction worried him. At that moment, an unknown adversary appeared, whom he fought throughout the night. The adversary was God and leaves Jacob lame for life. But not only that.
Esce cambiato. Per una volta non è più padrone della situazione. La sua scaltrezza non serve. Non è più l'uomo stratega, calcolatore. Dio lo riporta alla sua verità di mortale che trema e ha paura. Gli cambia il nome, gli cambia la vita, gli cambia l'atteggiamento.
The Pope explained that Jacob's combat with his adversary is a metaphor for prayer.
In quella stessa notte, combattendo contro l'ignoto, prenderemo coscienza di essere solo poveri uomini. Mi permetto di dire poveracci. Ma proprio allora, nel momento che io mi sento un poveraccio, non dovremmo temere, perché in quel momento Dio ci darà un nome nuovo, che contiene il senso di tutta la nostra vita.
Through this example, Pope Francis pointed out that prayer is true when one is vulnerable. A proud person cannot leave room for God.
Pater et Figlio.
In front of the imminent economic crisis generated by the pandemic, the Pope created a fund to help those who are most suffering and who have lost their sources of income. It's called the Jesus the Divine Worker Fund. Pope Francis has made an initial contribution of $1 million to Caritas Rome. In this way, the Pope is addressing one of the biggest worries he's had since the start of the health emergency.
Questi giorni tanta gente ha perso il lavoro. Non sono stati riassunti, lavoravano in nero. Preghiamo per questi fratelli e sorelle nostri che soffrono questa mancanza di lavoro.
Pope Francis sent a letter to the Vicar of the Eternal City. In it, he encourages people living in Rome to take this opportunity to become protagonists in shaping life after the crisis. He asks priests to be the first to contribute to the initiative. With the fund, the Bishop of Rome also wants to accompany those suffering most from the pandemic's economic consequences, primarily workers with temporary contracts, domestic workers, small business owners, and the self-employed. After the worst of the pandemic, Italy and the Vatican are attempting to return to normal. St. Peter's Basilica and the Vatican museums have opened, but Castel Gandolfo was missing. It opened its doors a few days later, on June 6th. The doors are open, and doctors and health personnel who worked in Italian hospitals during the pandemic are being let in for free thanks to the Pope. The pontifical villas, used by many popes in the summer months, have also adapted the new security regulations. Audio guides passed from one tourist to another have been prohibited, and tour groups will be small, with a maximum of 10 people. Pope Francis arranged for the castle to be opened to the public at the end of 2015. Inside, one can see the room where popes such as Pius XII and Paul VI died, or the private chapel where Benedict XVI and Pope Francis were seen for the first time praying together. For now, most visitors live in Italy. Foreigners are expected to return as air traffic returns to normal after the pandemic.
During World War II, some 12,000 people took refuge in Castel Gandolfo's palace and gardens. The Pope's bedroom was used for women giving birth, and 40 children were born. You are watching Rome Reports. Coming up after the break, we take you to the scene of Antoni Gaudi's death. You're watching Rome Reports.
It's no secret that John Paul II was one of Solidarity's biggest advocates. However, it is his less widely known older brother, Edmund Wojtyła, whose experience might more closely resonate with those treating the sick during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Edmund
Wojtyła, as a doctor, was a little Good Samaritan. Everyone remembers him as a person totally committed to the good of his patients. In 1932, in the middle of a scarlet fever epidemic, the young doctor was head of the infectious diseases department at a hospital in Bielsko, Poland. In his department, there was a patient, a young woman with scarlet fever. Everyone was afraid of getting close to her and treating her. Everyone but Dr. Edmund, who took it upon himself to treat the patient despite the risks. So the doctor contracted the disease, and right after the death of the patient, Dr. Edmund Wojtyła also died. Edmund Wojtyła's profound care for the sick illustrates the sense of humanity so crucial in the medical profession. This kind-heartedness of his came from his family, because it was the atmosphere one breathed in the Wojtyła house. Today, it is the doctors and nurses working tirelessly against the pandemic who show what it means to care for humanity. Even before the economic crisis was set off by the coronavirus pandemic, the International Vincentian family has been carrying out a number of projects to help the poor. For example, the 13 Houses campaign, currently underway in 40 countries, aims to provide permanent housing to the homeless. Today, the Vincentians count on approximately 4 million people and 161 branches or congregations in lay institutes worldwide.
In Lima, Peru, we're dealing with food distribution and access to drinkable water for those in poverty. In Honduras, 9 centers were created for at-risk elderly and the young, where they actually live and have all their needs met. In the Congo, we've established medical centers for the treatment of COVID. And in Rwanda, we've been dealing with refugee camp, trying to provide food and education opportunities, especially for the young.
Following the charism of St. Vincent de Paul, the mission of the Vincentian family is to bring people of diverse backgrounds together to serve the poor.
And he saw that it had to be done simultaneously, both in the preaching of the word and in the meeting of their everyday needs. For him, you cannot separate the two. meaning he was able to see beyond the concrete services, the realities, to the presence of God, especially in the face of the poor person.
Although the pandemic has interrupted some of the Vincentian family's projects, including the 13 Houses campaign in Philadelphia, its members are determined to keep up with their mission.
Even after COVID, our work with homelessness is not going to end. It predated COVID, and it certainly is going to go on after COVID. COVID has exasperated the work. It did not initiate it, and it will not end it.
The Vincentian family has also created a webpage, famvin.net, to showcase its different projects and connect them to donors interested in supporting their work.
June 10th is the anniversary of the death of the architect who imagined the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, Antonio Gaudí. He was an exceptional artist who died in 1926 at the age of 74 from an unexpected accident.
Cuando atraviesa la Gran Vía de las Cortes Catalanas,
As he's crossing Gran Vía de las Cortes Catalanas, a tram comes. The driver honked as a sign he was moving, so Gaudí pulls back. But he doesn't realize another's coming in the opposite direction, and he gets run over. At first, he was taken for a street bum. It wasn't until he made it to the hospital that they recognized him. Antonio Gaudí died 3 days later.
y las fotografías del entierro es...
The photographs of the burial are impressive in 1926. Hundreds of people from La Rambla in Barcelona to the Sagrada Familia. Thousands of people walked with the architect, whom many already considered a holy man. José Manuel Almuzara is one of the promoters of Gaudí's beatification process. Elements have been gathered to show that the brilliant architect was a saint. He was a mystic who sought God in the small details of his life.
A través de la arquitectura, su método de trabajo...
He sought God through architecture, his way of working, his care for his relatives, his parents, and his niece. Also in his attention to workers, as an important part of a job, and much more. He was unable to finish the Sagrada Familia, but his models and documents have allowed it to continue. The builders dreamed of completing it in 2026 for the 100th anniversary of his death, but the pandemic has slowed down the work. Where's the oldest cookbook held? The Vatican Library, the British Museum, Yale University. You're watching Rome Reports. Where's the oldest cookbook held? The Vatican Library, the British Museum, Yale University. The correct answer is C. Yale holds 3 Mesopotamian clay tablets from 1700 BC. You're watching Rome Reports.
The pandemic hit not only the health of families, but their economies as well. Thousands of them have lost their sources of income, and food banks, parishes, and NGOs are stepping up to help. There are people who help by buying food for others. There are others who help by cooking for them. That's because not all poor people have access to a kitchen, for example, those who live in the streets. The idea to offer these people good hot meals led to the publication of this cookbook, Cocinar para Otros, in English, Cooking for Others. Journalist Paloma Garcia Ovejero came up with the idea, and Susana Perez, author of the website huevosfritos.es, provided the recipes. The goal is to promote solidarity by encouraging people to cook for their neighbors in need.
El mundo cambia con muchas personas.
The world changes thanks to small people doing small things in small places. We firmly believe cooking for others can be one of those little things. Even if it doesn't change the world, it can take away someone's hunger. I can assure you that whoever receives your plate of hot food, or the sandwich you prepared, or that Tupperware full of salad, that person's day changes. We decided the recipes had to meet 4 requirements. The first was a low budget. Second, each portion had to meet the hydrate, protein, and vegetable needs. Third, it had to be easy to transport. Fourth, it had to be easy to prepare quickly and in large quantities in case it had to be reheated. It includes 20 simple, complete, homemade Spanish recipes, from a delicious bowl of lentils with veggies and chorizo to pea soup with eggs. It even includes recipes for what could be called emergency meals, those prepared with whatever's left and lots of creativity. What's crucial with this type of recipe is being imaginative and being able to convert almost any leftovers into fantastic meals. It's also important to be able to make the best seasoning out of what's available. You'd be surprised by how good a baked potato can taste when you combine it with whatever's left in your refrigerator. Cocinar para Otros can be downloaded for free, though its author suggests making a donation to Caritas. The book is a burst of creative solidarity in difficult times, like during a pandemic. It's a project with the potential to inspire similar initiatives beyond Spain. Her name is Elena Tucito. During her youth, her prowess in global karate competitions garnered acclaim for Italy. Life led her to eventually set aside the black belt for the Franciscan cord. Elena now belongs to the Franciscan fraternity of Bethany. Although it may not appear this way, karate and spiritual life have many things in common. When you fight, you try to understand your opponent's emotions so you can choose an adequate strategy. It's the same as the spiritual journey, where it's crucial to pay attention to the little things and strive to get to know God and understand how He thinks. Elena first encountered the Franciscan spirituality as a young child, but it was her sister who had Down syndrome who encouraged her to live her spirituality more strongly. She always pushed me to live out the sacraments. She always wanted me to go to Mass with her or to pray the Rosary. So she was the intermediary in my encounter with God. Elena used the will and discipline she gained from karate competitions to strengthen her spirituality and nurture a spirit of resilience. Beyond building her athletic strength, Elena's karate training sessions helped her develop several virtues. Years later, while on mission in Brazil, they proved to be very useful. One time, a man with bad intentions came in and hid inside the water tank. While we were waiting for the police to arrive, I felt an obligation to intervene. In that moment, I thanked God for the courage He had given me, since the man could have been armed. Neutralizing him was easy. He was smaller than me. I had to hold him down forcefully, but I didn't hurt him. In difficult moments, Elena and her community, the Franciscan Fraternity of Bethany, haven't let their guard down in helping the needy around the Italian town of Terlizzi. Last year, they provided 18,540 meals and distributed 2,081 bags of food, thus helping 260 families. We have experienced firsthand the reality that man doesn't save himself. All of humanity lives this same condition. The symbol of salvation is that which I wear around my neck, the symbol of the cross, the Tau. Elena says it's the moment to roll back one's sleeves and reconstruct fraternity with the antibody of solidarity, one of the values that characterize her vocation. After the quarantine, business is slowly beginning to restart in Rome, one of the most touristic cities in the world. Millions of tourists each year visit its history-laden streets, and who wouldn't want to go home with a small souvenir? Although souvenir shops can be found on every corner, one of the most popular buying spots is in Borgo Pio, one of the most trafficked streets near the Vatican, which is also adapting to the new normal. We opened the store to see how things would go, but there are very few people. It's hard. In one day, you make $5 to $13. It's pretty frustrating that there are no tourists. Tourism is undoubtedly one of the sectors most affected by the pandemic-caused economic crisis in Rome. In addition to souvenir shops, popular religious stores hope the situation will improve. In the meantime, they adapt their stores to respect existing security norms like interpersonal distancing. Everything has been very calm, with very few people. We thoroughly cleaned and sanitized the shop, but there aren't many customers. We hope more people will come toward the end of June, at least Italians. Other shop owners have taken advantage of the quiet time in Rome while tourists start to make their way back. One such example is Massimiliano. We hope a few tourists will come. Now it's kind of hard because not all the borders are open. When the borders reopen, we hope more people will come, but it's difficult because many of them are scared. These shopkeepers don't lose hope, however. Italy recently opened its borders to the rest of the European Union, without requiring arrivals to spend time in quarantine. Thus, the expectation is that the situation will improve little by little, even if it is within a new normal.
In our next program, Pope Francis's compassion continues in this difficult time of the pandemic. This and much more here on Rome Reports.
Should I try to use my mind to figure everything out, or should I simply rely on faith to understand? See, those who rely on faith alone to view the world are not using their minds to reason. And those who only rely on reason to interpret reality are turning their backs on the gift of faith. Well, the perfect solution involves a marriage of both faith and reason. See, God knew that we would be full of questions, big questions as large as our universe. And God created us with intellects to wonder, dream, and philosophize. Yet God asks us to believe in some truths that we can't see with our eyes. We can arrive at perfect truth when we choose to see with the eyes of faith while we reason with our minds. And our faith can truly blossom when we explore it with our mind. Maybe St. Augustine said it best. I believe in order to understand, and I understand in order to believe.
Live true. Live Catholic. Live Catholic.
For over 2,000 years, the Catholic Church has consistently transformed through sacred scriptures and sacred tradition. It is comforting to know that some things remain consistent. Live truth, live Catholic. Visit our shop at Shiashi, opposite Gethsemane Cemetery, and find for yourselves the following: monstrance, chalice, candles, clerical shirts, Bibles, writings of the early church fathers, and other sacramentals. For more information, contact Live Truth, Live Catholic Bookshop on 020-222-0376 or 024-960-6155. Live Truth, Live Catholic, your number one stop shop for your religious items.
Rome Reports comes to you from the Department of Social Communications, Catholic Archdiocese of Accra. This and every Sunday from 3:30 to 4 p.m. on GTV.